All right, so buying long-term real estate, what is the best way to go about that? You know, there's a couple different models that you can use. Actually, there's probably more than a couple. Let's be real here. Which one's the best one? My name's Aaron Impens, and I'm going to tell you. All right, so really today I'm going to go over just a couple different models that I see floating around that other people are doing that it seems to be pretty common, and then I'll tell you a little bit about my model and maybe even how you can invest with me. Let's assume that you've got all of the money in the world that you ever wanted to make and your bank is just loaded and you wanted to get into real estate. Well, what's one of the models of buying long-term real estate that you could get into? Well, obviously you could just pay cash for everything, right? Who needs loans? Doesn't matter, you got the cash, you just put the cash out there, buy it, never have to worry about a loan, and you cash flow. That's a way to go about it. Not necessarily the one that I would do, and frankly, couldn't do at this moment if I wanted to scale at any sort of quick rate. You know, let's be real here. Not everybody's got tens of millions of dollars in their bank account to be able to just buy unlimited amounts of real estate. So you have to use some leverage a lot of times, which if you were to ask me, I'm okay with leverage. But let's talk about that a little bit as well. So a friend of mine has a business model that is different than mine, but he buys a lot of long-term real estate, focuses on similar things that I do, single family homes, small multifamily, a Nebraska area predominantly. Well, his business model differs from mine because he likes to leverage his properties to the max. So let's go over that a little bit. What does that mean? Leverage. When you borrow from a bank to be able to purchase a property, they're going to give you a loan. Typically, it's going to be for 80% of the appraised value, right? Okay, so you're always going to have, in theory, at least 20% of value that between your loan and the actual value of the property. Well, that's good in theory. Look, back to my friend here though, he likes to try to leverage that even more and has found banks and relationships that he can leverage up to 90, maybe even 93% of the value of the home. Well, what he does is he finds these discounted properties. Let's say a property that's worth $100,000 and he buys it for 80. Okay, typically he'd be able to go to a standard bank, get his 80% loan, and be no money out of pocket, right? So $100,000 house, you got an $80,000 loan, and that's how much the property costs. Owns it with no money out of pocket, easy. Well, now his business model is he takes that and gets a loan for $93,000. So he bought the property for 80, gets a loan for 93, so he's just put 13 grand into his bank account. Some people may say, well, hey, that's quote unquote tax-free money, which is a whole other topic that we don't need to get into right now. But he's got an extra $13,000. What should he do with that? He could reinvest it into another property. He could leave it in his bank account, but what he currently does is he lives off of it. So now he's got a property that's leveraged at 93% that may or may not cash flow because of that, and he's living off of that extra money that he pulled out. So that's good in the near term because he has, well, I should say good in the near term because he has cash in his bank and he's living a lavish lifestyle that he wants to. But he's not paying down his properties, he's leveraged very high, and let's say we have a downturn in the real estate. His properties need to be able to ride out that downturn because what if all of a sudden that $100,000 house is now only worth 90, but he owes 93? He's in big trouble, and he better hope that that money he pulled out, he didn't spend it all on his BMW and his big fancy house. Yeah, not the business model that I would choose, but it's out there and it's an option for you. I'll tell you what I do is I'm gonna look for a good mix, okay? I'm gonna use leverage on my properties. I will never leverage anything over 80%, and obviously the less the better. I want something that's gonna produce a cash flow of 8% or more cash on cash return. Typically it's more, but that's at least the minimum, and not leveraged over 80%. Something that's going to be paid down quickly, because my goal is to ultimately, I don't want to have that debt. Again, a whole nother argument we could have about whether you should have debt or not have debt long term. Many different opinions and ways to go about that. But I've got a good mix, okay? I've got good leverage, but I also know that if my loan to value is only 65% over my portfolio, we'd have to have one hell of a downturn for me to not be able to ride that out. So I don't know about you guys, but if that sounds good to you, reach out to me. One other business model is to not learn the ins and outs of real estate, but just to invest with somebody that already knows those things. I'd love to talk to you if that's something that is of interest to you at all. Let me know. That's all I got for you today, guys. My name's Aaron Impens, as always. It'll never change. I appreciate you watching. Smash that subscribe button. Leave me some comments below. If you have questions about other ways to go about it, I'd be glad to answer them. Be sure to check out another video, and we'll see you next time.